Welcome to the first episode of our podcast. My name is Daniel, the co-host of the show. And on this show, I just want to talk about how we want to be as critical, transparent, and as fun simultaneously all together. So, first of all, critical in how we, view this world and how we give our 2 cents, right? We're not always going to be right about everything, but I think even if we can just get our audience to potentially see maybe just one issue differently through our lens, I'm happy with that. And then transparent also in the sense that we've experienced a lot of stuff in life, that's probably not common to most people. But then at the same time, it's somewhat relatable. So we want to obviously give you all an authentic experience of, on this show about what we've been through and where we are going, right? And then obviously we want to be fun as well. We'll talk about all the random stuff out there, including Mitchell's crazy ex-girlfriend if you want, not a problem. But yeah, so like I've said, we don't know how this is going to go. So we want to learn through the process and just take you guys along with us on this podcast journey. So welcome.
Yeah.
So
here we go.
Yeah. Introduce yourself, Mitchell. Tell us about yourself.
Well, me and Daniel went to high school together. Now I'm currently living in Chicago, going to school. I'm majoring in. Damn, dude, I already fucked up.
All good. All good, buddy.
Tell me about myself.
Yeah. Where did Mitchell Jackson come from? All right, Kurt and Julie, obviously, but no.
Where did I come from?
Yeah.
Well, I was born in a small town, not a small town, a medium-sized town.
Yeah, no.
In Ohio.
Yeah.
I started school at a small Christian school.
Yeah.
And in said town,
Yeah,
Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I come from a pretty privileged background, I would say. Very lucky.
Yeah.
I have my parents are still together.
Great. That's great, man. That's great.
That's kind of rare these days.
Yeah.
I consider myself lucky for that.
Yeah.
I have a supportive family. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What else? What else should I say about myself?
I don't know, man. You're pretty interesting. Well, don't worry. We'll get
story.
into. We'll slowly.
This is how we work out. This is how we work out the kinks, man. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Eventually, this will be easy.
Yeah, we'll slowly grind it out. So, yeah, like Mitchell had said, we've met in high school. Well, middle school actually, eighth grade. Yeah.
We can start there. Maybe that's a good place to start. Is how we met each other.
Yeah, I'm from China. Like from China. I'm a Chinese citizen.
Right.
I'm a Chinese citizen. People Republic of China. And my name is Yuqiao Chang.
Right.
Obviously, I go by Daniel. Yeah, so I went to a foreign language school from when I was in primary, and then obviously went to America for my middle school and high school. Stayed in Seattle in Washington, up in the Pacific Northwest, and then after that 1 year, came to Ohio, met Mitchell in 8th grade, and our friendship just went from there. So and then obviously after that, we we were I guess in high school together for 4 years technically, because it's 1 year
Right.
middle school and 3 year high school.
Right. Because
And
you
I had
graduated a
to,
year
yeah,
earlier
yeah, I had to leave
because you're
because,
so smart.
yeah,
You left our whole class.
yeah, haha, yeah. But yeah. So and then now I live in Australia. I've been here since 2017, and now I go to UTS, University of Technology of Sydney, and I study law and Bachelor of Law and Bachelor of Public Communication, specifically majoring in public relations. So, and I'm not that smart.
Yeah, why did you graduate a year early? Explain that.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I think a lot of Western society maybe doesn't have, maybe doesn't like kids from Western society doesn't really encounter that as much, where you're totally depend on your parents and what they decide for a period of time.
Okay.
And you almost, I don't think you have as much input, especially in the sense that they're already paying your tuitions, which, as you all know, international student pays a much higher tuition than regular
Right. So
kids, right?
you're saying that your parents had more of a say in
Yeah,
what you
absolutely,
did, what you
absolutely,
decided to do. Okay.
absolutely. I mean, I think moreover to that, especially because I came out to the States at such a young age,
Right.
where I feel like I almost there was no quit. There was no saying, "Hey, I don't really want to learn English. I want to be
Right.
successful in what I'm doing in Chinese or speak Mandarin." Right?
Mhm.
Go through all that process. I can't.
Mhm.
I couldn't go back
Mhm.
because I mean, as you guys can hear from my accent, I have okay English,
Yeah.
but then it's at consequently something have to give. Something has to give. So my Mandarin have you know been down a slippery slope that's slowly deteriorating. But it's okay now.
You can still get by. You can still speak
Yeah,
Chinese, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
what specifically is hard, or like what area, like what if you were like to, move back to China, what would be hard about, your Mandarin now? Like what situation would be difficult?
I think mostly you just be writing for
Writing.
professional in a professional setting. In a
Right.
professional setting,
Yeah, because
because I
you need
think
to be constantly practicing to
absolutely,
stay. Yeah, I
it's
took a
like
couple years of
yeah,
Chinese in
yeah,
my first year of college, and
yeah.
it takes a lot of practice to stay.
Especially um, when you live in China as well. It's I would allude to writing critical essays, writing critical academic writing, right?
Right,
Where that's not how you talk,
right.
right? That's never going to be how
Yeah, exactly.
but you have to learn those skills to be successful in your professional setting.
Yeah,
So I think that I would have a hard time with. So yeah, I mean, our high school journey has been pretty regular, hasn't it? Would you say it's pretty
I don't
typical
know.
suburb?
I've only ever, so like I said, I was at that same school since kindergarten, and then
Yeah,
Daniel came in eighth
yeah,
grade, and I've never been. It was a private school, private Christian school, so I never went to a public school. So
right.
you asking me that question, do we have a normal education? And frankly, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
I
I don't
agree.
exactly know if that was a normal American high school experience. I definitely
Yeah,
think there was some things that were very unique about it. I mean, uh, I don't think public schools have weekly vespers. And if
yeah,
you don't know what a vespers is, then that means you didn't grow to a Christian
yeah,
school. Vespers
yeah,
is like a weekly gathering, which there's like Bible study, there's songs, whatever, but it's also just social gathering. But there's chaperones, there's no debauchery going on. It's contained. So
Yeah.
so we always had there was always this feeling of like uh, we're not going to get away with too much, so you kind of have to figure out how to have clean fun, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah,
something I think something that I was very, I guess, I thought of a lot
yeah.
was was I've spoken to my host families before. So they're basically my
Explain what a host family
yeah,
is for
so they're
people that.
basically, I came to America through obviously like a agent program slash type situation.
Yeah.
And they find you, families that's around school so you can stay with them and like be with their kids. And
Hmm.
yeah, I was extremely lucky to be with a really, really good host family.
You
Um,
switched a few times.
yeah, I switched a
You
few
had a you had
times.
a you had a few different ones.
Absolutely. But I think
Hmm.
as it
The
currently
last one that you
constitutes,
had was
yeah,
good. Yeah.
as currently constitutes, um, when I say my host family, I'm only going to refer to the people that I stayed with in ninth grade and 10th grade.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
really I see them as family, but you know if I refer to different host families, that would be the one, right?
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
was something I was very vocal with them about. Was
Right.
their kids who was 3 years and 4 years younger than me,
Hmm.
right? Um, you know, they've they were in the same situation you were, where
Right. Right.
they didn't have, I guess, they don't know anything else other than being
At that school.
submerged in the religion, submerged
Right.
in
The culture, yeah,
the
surrounding
culture.
the religion and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, they're not even from Ohio, right? They
Hmm.
moved from another state to Ohio,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's the same in the other state as well. There was no difference, right? It was
Hmm.
you go to the same church every weekend, and that's all Saturday, right? On Sunday, you might have Pathfinders. For you guys don't know, that's like a Boy Scout, Girl Scout switch, right? And you know you go through that a whole day. Sunday you're gone, and then Monday you're back to school.
Hmm.
8 a.m. at school you start praying, right, for the whole day, right?
Well,
Every before every class,
right.
right?
You don't pray all day, but
Yeah,
yeah, you pray at the
yeah,
beginning of class. You pray at the
yeah.
beginning of. There's a lot of intermittent
Event, yeah,
prayers going
yep,
on.
yep. So it was always intriguing to me how these kids, I guess not kids because we're still kids to be fair,
Right.
but just all these high school students or even elementary middle school students, how they how they live their life, it's so unique,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
think what's great about is between all of us,
Yeah.
between me, you, and a couple of our other close friends back in high school,
Hmm.
we were very conscious that we're not really that submerged in the religion side of it. You know, in addition, our class, the class I'm referring to, obviously is the one I didn't graduate with, but the one that you know Mitchell and I were a part of the whole time, even though I graduated a year
Hmm.
early.
Hmm.
Was matter of fact, most people in our class wasn't that submerged in that you know in that whole religion thing as well.
Yeah, our class was kind of unique. We didn't have a lot of kids that were like that fit the mold
Yeah,
of other classes seem to have like a type,
yeah,
where it was
yeah,
like these people they're submerged in the culture and they
yeah,
they they go along with it and they kind of
yeah,
have a personality that reflects someone who was raised that way. And
yeah,
for
yeah,
some reason our class had only a few of those people that
yeah,
felt that connected to it,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Even though I think a lot of people in the class have all been there since day one. Not all of them
Probably
are
about like
very, yeah,
probably I forget the exact number. Probably about like 12 kids had literally been there, same class since kindergarten,
yeah,
graduating
yeah,
together
yeah,
12 years later.
yeah, right,
So and the class, the only like, I think the most people that were ever in the class was like maybe 30,
yeah,
and then I think we graduated with like 28. And then I think at one point when I was in second grade, I think it
yeah,
was just 12 kids. I wasn't,
right,
just so that that's also unique
yeah.
to
I mean, it's unique that
our
we
school.
went to a school that's K to 12, 300 people.
Right, in one building,
Yeah,
and so
in one building,
yeah, yeah.
30 people per class. That was kind of the norm back
The
then.
general. Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder we were so bad at sports.
Right. There's not a lot not
Yeah,
slim
there's
there's not a
just
lot
not
to
enough
choose
people.
from.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I feel like our distinction comes in, where how we're so different from other people. Is that us being in the environment we were in,
Right.
yet we were not submerged in it.
Yeah.
We're kind of dipping our toes in, but we're not in it 100%.
Right.
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 But then at the same time, we're not part of the normal high school culture. For example, the close by high school that's next to our school, right?
Yeah.
Whereas people from that school that came into our class at a later stage, or if we just know people from that school,
Mhm.
it's so very extremely different, right? It's
Mhm.
very, very different because I almost feel like it's we didn't, as a group of people, get to experience a lot of things they did, but then at the same
Right.
time they didn't get to experience a lot of things we were used to,
Mhm.
right? So I think that kind of gives us some street cred to talk about either side at this stage. So that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's another thing I feel like you're kind of ignoring is the fact that you also, before coming to the States, had a traditional Chinese education, which I know nothing about.
Right,
Um,
right,
and what's funny is the way you're describing, like you were talking about your host family's kids, and
yeah,
the way you're describing, like you come to, uh, you came to the States, and you saw my culture as like a unique, like very like kind of niche, uh, experience. And I think that's what when you came to in eighth grade, that's what my experience was normal. I was like, this is just normal. This is, and I didn't even have that much perspective of other cultures in the States. Like I just was just kind of consumed by that because I was in eighth grade. This is the way life is, and so I kind of saw you as like a window into a different, you know, same thing, different culture where it's like, well, that's interesting, and so um, yeah, it's just funny to hear you describe my culture is almost not, I mean, exotic, you know what I mean? But not,
yeah,
but yeah, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Anyways.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that was high school, man. That was high school, and that's that was 2018, 2017, right?
What, when you graduated?
Well, I graduated in
Or
17, and then
in,
you graduated in 18,
in
right?
18? Yeah.
So that's a while from 2020, and a lot of
Yeah, a
things
lot
have
has
changed.
changed. A lot,
Yeah,
lot has
a lot
changed.
has changed. Absolutely. I think for one, we grew a lot more mature. We're much older now in how
Yeah.
we think and stuff. So
Yeah.
obviously, one topic that I was dying to get into is your
Okay.
move to Chicago.
Okay.
Reason being, I grew up moving from places to places. I
Right.
went from Beijing, China, to Seattle, and then to Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
and then now to Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
It's a lot.
it's a lot. Absolutely. It's a lot.
I
It's a
mean,
lot.
Even Ohio versus Seattle is very different,
Absolutely.
and it's the same
Yeah.
country. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So my experience with moving and, getting used to new environment has been okay,
Mm-hmm.
just because it was pretty much necessity.
Right.
You either get used to it or you're not going to be able to survive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was always the mentality for me. So, what is it like for you to move from a place where you lived for 19 years to a completely different place? What's that like?
It was really hard at the beginning, and it still is, but it's less hard. But yeah, I mean, when I first of all, my parents weren't even that uh, excited about the idea of me moving, and there was pressure to not um, to not move, uh, partly because I had some other scholarship opportunities at schools in Ohio around home, and I decided to not take those, and so financially and also just I think generally there was kind of some pressure from family and friends to stay close to home. And I'm even not even I mean Chicago's not even that far from Ohio. Like
It's not. Yeah.
it's not a massive move. Like I can take a bus 5 hours and be there, be back. But it's still culturally very different uh than where I grew up. So yeah, I mean it was and you know it kind of I'm wondering how you did it even when you were because I was 19 when I moved, and like I can't imagine maybe if I was younger it'd be easier. I don't know, like maybe I would just kind of adapt, but feeling like almost like an adult and then moving and not knowing anyone at all. And like I said, we came from a small school, so I was used to having the same friend group for, you know, 12 years essentially, or, you know, maybe 4 years of like 4 or 5 years of like a very tight knit group of maybe 3, 4 people that I talk to, on a regular basis. And then moving and none of those people are there. And it's a whole different culture. And, uh, you know, it's I don't know. It's hard to describe that that just immense feeling of isolation, confusion, and it's like you said, it's survival. That's what it felt like. It was like I just have to survive, and hopefully things will get better
Yeah.
and things will get easier because I'm so lonely. Uh, I don't I and especially moving to Chicago, it has a much faster pace than it was in Ohio, where I'm taking the train to school every day, which I've never taken a train in my life practically before that. And and I'm kind of an introverted person to begin with, and so just seeing people everywhere and never being able to escape the sight or just the sound of people really kind of gave me some anxiety where I'm just like, how do I, and I was living in a dorm with two other people, tiny little dorm, which is not unique. A lot of freshman college students do that, but, you know, it was just like complete shock to what I was used to. And so, um, for me, yeah, it was that first year, started getting better towards the end of the year, but those first 2 semesters was pretty brutal.
What were
Until I
s-
found Go ahead, you can ask me.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask, what were some things that really, before you moved to Chicago, never like came across your mind, or that you never thought of, where now you have to think about constantly? Or, for example, one example I would give is buying groceries,
Hmm.
right? What are some
Yeah.
other things that before moving you never thought about, you never just cared about because it was always there, versus now you have
Hmm.
to do those things yourself? What were some of those things that, what was it hard, or was it fairly easy?
Hmm. I mean, in the similar vein of, I mean, I was like I said, I was very privileged growing up. I Before moving, I didn't do a lot of my own chores. I never really had a chore list. Um, my life was very easy. At least like just the uh, just the living, just general day to day living stuff. You know, I I think I didn't realize how much free time I actually had in high school, and how much probably I wasted. Um, but I think I don't know, like moving here has just given me like I enjoy the one of the reasons I actually really enjoy living in Chicago in a big city is that I'm constantly reminded that there isn't just one way to live. There isn't just one way to exist. Cuz like you can just walk down the street and you see just in a matter of 2 blocks people live all sorts of different lives. And you know what I mean? Like you don't have like if you're not fitting the mold that you were born into, you know, you there are other ways to live your life. It's like,
Yeah,
and I think having a constant reminder of that is really important to me, you know, as opposed to staying home or like staying near home and feeling that social pressure that like you have to or just to fit in, you have to kind of go through the motions and be a certain way. Um, I don't know. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah,
it's kind of on my mind.
yeah. No, I mean, I think you mentioned a few really good points. A couple key terms that keep popping up in my mind with recognition and awareness, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think I would allude to the political climate now, where it's like it's easy to follow, to like or dislike someone, just knowing what you know. That's
Mhm.
it. Whereas, and the truth is, you don't know that much, right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
look at something on TV and you don't do your research.
Mhm.
So you think, oh, this is affecting me. This is not affecting me. I like him. I don't like him. I like her. I don't like her.
Mhm.
The person, often I see someone is on Instagram as well. I feel like the people that are posting certain things, they're not aware enough. One, right? So they don't know how other people live,
Mhm.
right? They know that climate change is real. They know
Mhm.
that greenhouse gas emission to be lowered, but they don't know there's people without food. And in those places, would you give them coal to burn, or would you give them a solar panel right now? Right? So my point is just, I feel like a lot of people see things from one perspective without balancing, without proportionality, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Proportionality, I think, is key. That's, I think, a term that in law we talk about a lot. Is proportionality,
What do you mean by that?
meaning this one action, for example, let's say, does it breach, say, this principle, right? Okay, so
Mhm.
if it does, well, is it proportionate to what the goal is we're trying to achieve,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So that for us in Australia would be the freedom of political communication. So
Okay.
we don't have a obviously Bill of Rights, but we do have this Supreme, well, High Court decision that says you have, freedom of political communication.
Right.
But then what people don't understand is that the test set out in the case, whether that's Tasmanian Dam case or McCoy case, I'm not going to get into all that. It all talks about proportionality. All talks about it. Okay, if it does breach the political uh, freedom of political communication, is it proportionate to the goal that to the means it tries to achieve? Right?
Okay.
It's kind of I feel like it's kind of like the sacrifice aspect of it.
Mhm.
Even though we don't necessarily like this law or this regulation, does it achieve, you know does it achieve what we want it to achieve, almost,
Mhm.
you know
So
but
give like a more tangible example of
for
what we're
for for
talking
for
about.
example, say Prince William came to Australia.
Okay.
um Say someone is saying something extremely defamation about him, or like
Mhm.
selling mugs or t-shirts that were extremely offensive,
Yeah.
or something like that. um and then they say they came out with a legislation that prohibits that type of stuff to be sold. Well, people always argue, well, it's political, right?
Mhm.
Either people can say, oh, this is, you know colonialism, this colonialism, that, or different things a lot of people can say to say, hey, that's, say Prince William is a jerk, and that's a political statement.
Mhm.
Whereas, I think it's pretty common sense that if there was a legislation that strictly prohibits people from saying that Prince William is a jerk, it would probably be passed and it would probably be proportionate, right? It's proportionate to what they're trying to achieve, which is to not defame people, and not, right, and not
Okay.
having a lot of these very offensive things said, in public, or sold,
Right.
so everyone's wearing them, right?
Right.
So
So you're
yeah,
saying essentially that like a legislation like that, its goal is not to be so overreaching that it takes away your right to free speech, but if it's effective in its purpose and it doesn't go further than that, then perhaps it's not as controversial as people might make it out to
yeah, and I think in just in relation to purpose, it's also important to mention that in the Australian Constitution, they do set out different powers for state versus for the federal government.
be. Mhm.
So when I refer to power to do certain things, it
Mhm.
must be part of the federal government's power. So it can't be the state government's power. Like, that wouldn't matter.
Hmm.
It would just be specifically in relation to all the power that the federal government have.
Yeah.
And when they use regulations or legislative measures to achieve those means, when they do breach freedom of political communication. So that was kind of what I was getting at. But wow, we went from talking to moving from Chicago to
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of yeah, this is what the show hopefully maybe sort of a rough introduction, but
yeah,
hopefully the show eventually, well, you already kind of know our
yeah,
backgrounds where we can start diving into some of these. I mean, I'd like to think of this show as kind of a comparative show, like there's like I'm a political science and philosophy major. In political science, there's a whole sub branch of political science called uh, uh, comparative politics, which essentially it's like a comparative study. You're comparing one country's politics to another country's politics and seeing similarities and contrasts. And I mean, like, we can do some of that actually because we're in two different countries that have two different political systems, but also kind of a comparative study of just our culture,
Yeah.
your culture, my culture, um, and just ideas, a comparative study of ideas.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm
Yeah.
getting too theoretical with it, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's also important. I think we talked about this previously. Is that we're not only going to get into all the democratic society or quote unquote democratic society, for example, America or Australia. We also want to get into other countries like China, right?
right.
Where I lived there. I I still have some connection. I have one friend that I talk to in China still, but that's about it. And then everyone
Yeah.
else would be family, right?
Right.
Where it's just like there's a lot of misconceptions about what China is as a country and
Right.
and its government. I think this is truthfully, me speaking from the bottom of my heart.
Right.
I don't think China is as evil as American thinks it is.
Hmm.
Like seriously, in all seriousness, like we all, every politic, every I guess politician have a different agenda
Hmm.
to paint a certain picture.
Hmm.
In America or in Australia, right? There's this
Right.
almost China phobia.
Hmm.
But when I reflect on my experience and from what I know, oftentimes it gets me to start to think that, well, maybe I think the two government is very similar. Whereas I think instead of saying the ideological, I guess, place would be the United States of America on the one side of the totem pole, and then China being on the other side of it,
Hmm.
or less Venn diagram, right? Whereas there's no similarities; there's just two circles.
Hmm.
But from what I've experienced in life, I think there's a lot of commonalities between the two places, or just as a matter of fact, between all the governments around the world.
At
I
least,
think
yeah,
it's yeah, I
the
think it's very
powerful
yeah.
governments.
I think there's there's always this balance that Tucker Carlson wanted to say looting is bad, right? Laws and orders. But at the same time, isn't that what the Chinese government have always done?
What do you
You
mean?
know, like say calling a national guard to on some protest or tear gassing people.
Yeah.
They were seeing as some really horrible stuff that was done. Like that's what New York Times or even Fox News, all of them say, oh, that's horrible. Why is the Chinese government or why is the police doing that in Hong Kong? When it comes to America, people are doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, there is a lot of hypocrisy.
Half of
There
the
is a lot of
population
hypocrisy.
doesn't say anything. Half the population doesn't say anything.
Right.
The left would, the radical left would just straight up say those those actions are okay. And then most other people would say, mostly on the left would say they're okay, but it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's necessary or whatever. Whereas the other half would say, no, that's not cool. But then isn't no, that's not cool. The stance that was always part of the Chinese communism, socialism's ideology is laws and orders. So that's just my little rant on this whole sitch. But I
Yeah,
just
I
feel like
mean,
once we
I
dive
think you're
into
hitting on
it,
something.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think, and I think, that kind of perspective is almost non-existent in at least American discourse. Um, like even though people might shit on America, at least in universities, there's like definitely a feeling that um, very anti-American exceptionalism. Um, but still, there seems to be almost a unanimous agreement that even though America might suck, China's not any better. You know what I mean? Like it's not like anybody's glorifying China's government or you know what I mean? It's almost like this feeling that anything that's powerful sucks and is inherently evil, bad. And I think that's a lack of perspective. I mean, so what you're hitting on is not necessarily glorifying anything, but pointing out hypocrisy
yeah,
and and half truth. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and so even though I will listen to everything you have to say, and you the same to me, and we definitely not agree with each other on everything. Um, but that is what's important. You know what I mean? Like that is why I feel like that's why we should speak. I feel like that's why we should, as rough as it may be starting out, we should try and develop these thoughts in the open. I feel like we have a responsibility to,
yeah,
um, and so, and people who will judge what we're saying, without without actually hearing, if they hear you talking about, you know, China's not bad, they might turn it off
yeah,
immediately, and that's the
yeah,
that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like that is the kind of what we're trying to get past. Is just this immediate, um, like once it's all said and done, you're feel free. You know what I mean? Like once the arguments have been laid out, feel free to stand by your opinion. I don't think that's the problem. It's more of like just a unwillingness to sit back and just listen to intentionally listen to the side that you probably don't agree with already. You know what I mean? Like there's always something that you can learn. And I don't know, I think that's one of the reasons why the two of us are friends, is because I think, I don't know, I mean, even from the beginning of our friendship, there's stuff that we did not agree on, and we haven't even had the most friendly friendship. You know what I mean? Like there's always been a little bit of conflict involved, but that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it interesting. Is that if we just agreed on everything, then I don't see a point in really engaging, all the
yeah,
like as frequently as we do as friends. So I don't know. I've always been attracted to, I feel like you're the same. You've always kind of been attracted to people from the other side. It's like, because it's interesting, it's fun, it's fun to engage, and it's intellectually stimulating, and um you know so yeah,
yeah. I mean,
that's
speaking
that's
about,
my
yeah,
rant on that.
yeah, speaking about different perspective, when you were just talking, what keeps coming back to my mind was in eighth grade when we first met, right?
Okay. Uh-oh, I don't know if I remember.
When you had
It's a
like
long
your
time
little
ago.
suitcase, or with all
Yeah,
your assignments in that you
I used to carry
yeah,
around a little
yeah,
briefcase everywhere
yeah,
I went.
yeah.
Yeah, from Walmart.
It was that stage, right?
Yeah.
Where we had our iPhone 4s, I believe. 4s,
And that was my
maybe.
first phone. It was an iPhone
Yeah,
4.
yeah, yeah. Whereas
Yeah.
you downloaded WeChat and you were so
Explain.
in. Yeah, so that's basically the social media application that Chinese people use
Yeah, it's
to
like
communicate. It's kind of like
probably the most
WhatsApp.
popular. It's the most popular one, right?
Yep, yep. It's kind of like Facebook Messenger, but then it does have something that's similar to Instagram where you can post different things and you can share that.
Right.
So when how I guess how intrigued you were by WeChat and
Yeah.
downloading it and
Yeah.
adding the older international student that were at our school on it,
Yeah.
to me was just absolute crazy. Just
Why is it? Why was it crazy? Explain.
because I just never thought people cared.
Hmm.
Because that's
That's interesting.
most that's
That's
what I
interesting.
find a lot of people is
That
they
hurts.
just
That
don't
hurts you.
care.
That hurts for me
Yeah,
to hear you say that. Genuinely,
I
you
just don't
know,
think people care that much.
care about
Whether
what?
that's just care about,
Learning something new.
yeah, learning
Or
something
yeah.
new or a different culture or how they communicate,
Right.
right? Whereas I think, I mean, I see this in Australia so much, man. I really do. I see Australia's society as a just everyone lives separately. Everyone lives separately. You have so Sydney is divided. Up in the north, you have all the Caucasians. Caucasians lives up there,
Hmm.
right? Never come out of their bubbles. Lives the same way that European lives,
Yeah.
which is fine. And then we have the West. It's like the wild West. It's like you have one area that's all Chinese.
Hmm.
You have one area, excuse me, half Arab, half Vietnamese.
Hmm.
You have one area with, you know, a lot of specifically Lebanese people
Hmm.
and so forth. Where to me, what it feels like, oh, and not to mention, there's an area for, there's an area with a lot of um, African refugees or immigrants
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
So once you start looking at Sydney, just the greater Sydney area as they currently construct, it's not that diverse. It's diverse, but at the same time, it's not inclusive.
Right.
I don't
It's not
feel
quite the
inclusive.
melting pot that
Yeah,
people might. They might look at the distribution and
yeah,
see the numbers, but
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily reflect culturally what's happening there.
yeah. Like to tell you the truth, I've talked about this with my girlfriend as well.
Hmm.
I don't think I'll ever be able to live up the north, live in the north, like northeast. That's where it's the most like Caucasian centric area.
Right.
It's like close to the beach. It's this, you know, there's no train, so it's public transport wise, it's a little bit more difficult for immigrants or for people that are a little lower on the totem pole where everyone drives everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I was just thinking like I might not be able to live over there ever.
Why is that?
No matter how wealthy I am, no matter how, you know, how successful I am. Because I just feel like it just me as a immigrant, as a first generation immigrant, or
Hmm.
you know, me with knowing the people I know, all my friends are mostly second, third generation immigrants as well. Knowing what I know and knowing, you know, what we do as a group of people, I don't think it's appropriate for me to live up there because I just feel like I wouldn't fit.
Hmm.
I just feel like I really wouldn't fit
Yeah.
based on my experience here at university,
Do you feel
right?
like it's more of a you don't even want to fit in with that, or it's like even if you tried, you couldn't, or both?
I think it's me realizing instead of trying to fit in, just be myself.
Right.
Is I fit in enough. I fit in Seattle. I fit in Ohio,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
If I go back to China, I have to fit into China, right?
Yeah, and you probably feel like you might. I mean, how do like if you had to go back to China like today, would that be kind of concerning to you that you
Yeah,
might not fit
absolutely.
in very well because it's
Yeah,
been so long since you've been immersed in that, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people, especially in today's world where there's a lot of people moving around, there are a lot of people living in countries that they weren't born in or, or their parents um, were not born in, and there is this feeling that they might not fit in anywhere. I haven't experienced that personally,
Yeah,
but that's what I've kind of gotten from my conversations. So you might have more to add on that, but
because I don't think it's a lack of capacity for me. I know I'm
okay,
able to fit in. I know I'm
right,
able to, matter of fact, not only fit in, but change my whole persona, change myself to
right,
fit to a certain environment.
right.
I don't think that's a problem. I just think for me at this stage of my life, if it's more of a choice thing. It's more of a choice thing. I think,
Like what you decide to commit
yeah,
to. Yeah.
yeah. It's like I don't have some of the life experience that those other people had, right?
Mhm.
When I work in the future, it's very likely that I'll hang around people that look like me and speak Mandarin,
Mhm.
even if I work in Sydney, just because we have a large Chinese
Right.
population here.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if no matter what sector I work in, for profit, not for profit, government, at the end of the day, I'm always going to be seeing quote unquote my people, anyways.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wouldn't be comfortable in
Do you think
China.
that
Just
happens just naturally, or do you think that do you think that you have I mean besides like just saying I'm not going to engage with Chinese people, like do you have any control over that, or is that just how things just happen? You know what I mean? Like is that
it's yeah,
it's just
it's how things
natural.
just
It's on
happen.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just natural
Yeah.
because yeah, English is not an issue. Culturally, it's not an issue.
Right.
I grew up with my host family, where
So would you
everything.
say it's the way you look? Is what's essentially
I don't think
you
is that either.
either? Okay.
I think it's a little bit of that, but I think this whole people will look at you differently because of you look a certain way. It's a little too overhyped. I think
Okay.
it's more about how you act more than anything. But
Or
it's for me,
your
yeah.
actual background. You know what I mean? Your
For
actual
me,
because
it's just
people know
yeah,
you
yeah.
came from China and
I mean, for me, it's just being true to
easy
myself.
to
Who
yeah.
who am I, right? Who am I as a person? Who am I?
It's a deep question. I ask
Yeah,
myself that every
it's
day.
like, it's like, it's like, it's like, am I that guy who's just completely westernized and never a guy that doesn't know anything else,
Hmm.
who's okay with being in my realm and being successful at it, right? Am I okay with being that?
Hmm.
Uh, I can, but I don't think that's me. I relate to a lot of my friends are all immigrants. Their parents, grandparents are immigrants. I relate to them
Hmm.
more because
Hmm.
I understand that cultural gap between you and your parents.
Right.
I see that every day with my girlfriend.
Hmm.
It's that cultural gap. It's that the parents doesn't speak English that well. You
Hmm.
communicate with them in your language, and then there's this massive discourse between them and you
Hmm.
because just culturally it's different. It's even more significant with my parents, where I can't even explain to them what Instagram is. They probably have an idea of it. They probably know of it. They don't know what they I can't explain. I don't know where to start because I can't say, "Hey mom."
Have they've never even used it, right? Or they've
No.
never even
I it's crazy because I can't even say, hey mom, this is Instagram.
Yeah.
I have to say blah 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 in Chinese, which I don't even know how to start to explain. I
I
can
mean, you can
explain
start
to
by
you.
saying it's kind of like WeChat, but not really.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like just simple things like that, where
Yeah.
it's hard
Or
for.
let alone TikTok. Maybe do they know
Well,
TikTok because
TikTok,
it's from China. It's a Chinese
yeah,
company, right?
absolutely, yeah. But
Okay.
that's kind of just my
But
examples
they
of
probably
how.
don't use TikTok, right?
Yeah, no, but it's just I think that all this is just to demonstrate how this podcast, will be different
Yeah.
because of the
Well, I
perspectives
mean,
that
you're
we
hitting on
have.
something too that I mean, I probably don't relate to it on the exact same level, but I feel like you're saying like a generational gap. I feel a pretty, you know, pretty deep generational gap between just my parents, um not culturally, but just, well, I guess sort of culturally if you're considering technology as a form of culture, you know, where I don't feel like I was cut out. I truly don't feel like I was cut out for this world now. Like social media and everything. Like I feel like I was whether it's, the how I was raised or just my natural personality, um I feel like was not, like I'm not meant to be doing any of this, like I'm not meant to be on computers. I'm not meant to
Yeah,
be on a smartphone. Like that is like I feel like I'm kind of an alien. And I don't maybe other people feel like that too. And maybe we're just trying to kind of connect with those people, but or maybe I am, but yeah, so, you know, but my parents never had any of that growing up,
yeah,
and so when I try to tell call my mom and try to tell her my problems, it's like, are you getting it? I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe not. And so that's why we kind of need our generation depends on each other to sort of understand what we're going through.
absolutely, yeah. So let's shift to this because we do have limited time today.
Okay.
So, what's your situation like in Chicago? Are you pretty settled now?
Yeah, I have an apartment up here. I've got a couple roommates. Uh, with the coronavirus and everything, it's things are a little still not quite as what they were before, at least in the city. And most of my online classes will be, or most of my classes will be online still for the fall, which is most most kids in the states situation. Um, but yeah, for now, I'm kind of just kind of hanging out here, trying to continue living on my own
And get healthy.
and get
Yeah.
healthy. Yeah, yeah.
Is it gonna
Uh,
happen?
yeah. I mean, I'm off to a late start, but better now than never. Um, I don't know. I mean, to give a little background, I I texted you. I told you like we could talk. I mean, Daniel, you've been for interested for a long time. Maybe since eighth grade or ninth grade in fitness and health, and I was never that interested at all. At least back then, I thought it's a waste of time. I go to the gym and go every day, and so I never really got into it. But now, I mean, I'm only 21, but I already feel like I'm kind of getting old. So I feel like I need to do it now. I need to get healthy. I need to start doing more on a regular daily basis to ensure um, that I'm not selling myself short for the rest of my life.
Have
And
you made any specific plans?
well, I downloaded a. I actually bought a subscription to. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've heard of the app Fitbod.
That sounds very lame, but okay.
Well, I like. I'm kind of. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to like discipline and stuff like that, and so I. It's an app that kind of curates. And this is just a start. It's an app that curates because I don't even know when I go to the gym. I don't even know what exercises do what. Like I don't know where to start. So the app it curates a workout for you based on your preference. You can put in preferences, and then it shows you what muscle groups those hit, and you can kind of choose whether you want to do what you want to hit, or if you want to do just a full body workout, or what equipment is available. So it makes it easier for me to like learn exercises to start with. So yeah, I'm planning on doing those curated workouts 3 days a week and committing to that, um, and then just cleaning up my diet because
Less
uh,
drinking and partying and stuff right now with the COVID. So that
yeah,
helps.
yeah, that helps. I mean, I do drink sometimes. I like to drink. I like to drink beer. So I might need to scale that back a little bit too. Um, but yeah, no, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I want to. My goal, my goal is to be in like 7 out of 10 good shape by next year. By the time I turn, by the time I'm like 22, or in the middle of my 22 years old, I'd like to be in good shape. So
That
yeah, that's kind of the general idea.
it's realistic. It's very
I've never
realistic.
worried about what I here like for a background on that I've never worried about what I've eaten. I've always been a little bit chubby since I was a little kid. Um, you know, and it's caught up with me. It's caught up with me to a certain degree. Like when I graduated high school, wasn't I was still not in great like peak physical shape, but even since then, I had been stressed with college and school, and so it does catch up with you. So if you're young listening to this, I'm only 21, but it does catch up with you. So start early. That's the only advice I can give. Start early
Yeah.
on caring about your health, especially in
Yeah.
this country, because
Also a
healthcare
background.
sometimes does not come easy.
Background. Mitchell was a vegetarian for years.
For about 5 years.
Yeah.
I can't even remember exactly. I think it was from like fourth grade to like freshman year of high school or something like that. Actually, you know what, Daniel? You're one of the reasons I quit being a vegetarian, because you hyped up meat, and we'll talk about this in later episodes. We don't have
Yeah.
time, but me and Daniel
Yeah.
have been on many travels together, and I did go to China with Daniel in 2015, and I think that is when I stopped being a vegetarian because I couldn't resist the food there.
Yeah. I mean, a picture that immediately comes to my mind is when we were both sitting there in my dining room and just munching on chicken feet.
Yeah,
That was one. And then, yeah, I mean, even now, I think with me as well, I'm very into cooking meat and like cooking like a nice piece of steak or whatever.
yeah,
I feel like a lot of guys are into that, and
yeah.
somehow I've fallen into that as well, where I'm like interested in cooking meat, not just
Hmm.
because it tastes good, but just like the whole,
So you're like a
what's the right temperature?
barbecue
Yeah,
dad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I fall into that stereotype, but yeah. I mean, so we'll just check back in every couple weeks about this whole thing and see where you are, man. And
Yeah.
so
Keep me
yeah,
motivated and
this
accountable.
yeah, the podcast would keep you accountable, and also I think hopefully inspire other people to do it as well.
Yeah, because I'm start right now. If you're listening, I'm starting from pretty much rock bottom. Like not rock bottom, but like I'm starting from the bottom. I don't. You know what I mean. I'm not in. I'm not in great physical shape, and so I'm starting there. And so no pressure.
Yeah, perfect,
Yeah,
perfect. So
yeah.
let's just conclude our first episode here. So all right, guys, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can just tell us, like, comment on what you want us to talk about, and if it's relevant, we'll talk about it. We're
Yeah,
not afraid to talk about anything.
yeah.
So we'll
Any
speak on
questions
it.
about?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if you're moving to a new country or a
yeah,
new city or anything like that, or we
yeah,
we have a little bit of experience, so
yeah.
feel free to ask any questions like that.
All right, guys. So thanks for watching and thanks for listening to the podcast. On behalf of my co-host and I, Mitchell, we're gonna sign off and see you guys in the next one. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.